Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. I can see people are slowly joining in. We're just waiting for a couple of minutes before we start. Thank you for your patience and thank you for joining us. Just give us a couple of minutes. All right. I think in the interest of time, we'll get started. We have quite a few members joining us, and almost close to 40 already, and it's climbing. So thank you. To everyone here, a very good afternoon to each and every one of you. I think we have a very fantastic session lined up today. I hope your day so far has been productive and energizing so far. Firstly, thank you so much for taking the time out to join this webinar. The topic for today's discussion will be around employee experience at the core, rethinking HR tech for the modern workforce. This webcast is brought to you in partnership with greytHR. My name is Kavya. I'm the knowledge advisor and with the consulting and capabilities team at SHRM India. And I have the pleasure of setting the context for today's discussion today. Before we dive in, just a quick housekeeping note at the top of the hour. The chat will remain open throughout the session. We'd love for you to share your thoughts, insights, reflections, questions as we go along. If you have any questions for a specific speaker, please share them. Mention the name of the speaker you'd like to address it to, and we will pick them up towards the end of today's discussion for a quick Q&A round. So please feel free to put those in the chat, and we'll make sure they get addressed on time. Now, just to kickstart, I think it goes without saying that organizations who prioritize seamless, human-centric employee journeys, all the way from onboarding to offboarding, are witnessing stronger engagement, higher retention, and much better performance. Yet, many of us still find ourselves grappling with outdated or fragmented systems that no longer align with the needs of today's ever-changing workforce. Just to share a little bit of an insight, we had a global SHRM research that was done some time back. And we found out that when HR and employees were asked to rank top priorities, nearly half of HR professionals and over a third of employees put creating positive employee experience right at the top. In fact, when organizations measure both employee experience and engagement together, it helps explain over half of what drives job satisfaction and why people even choose to stay or leave an organization. So that shows you what a priority employee experience is. And I think it is time to rethink HR technology with employee experience at the heart of it. That's exactly what we will be doing today, of course. Joining me for this very engaging conversation are our panel of speakers in the space. We have Mr. Pradeep Deshpande, who is the Talent Acquisition Director at CGI. We have Dr. Kailash, Tickoo, who's the Vice President, Human Resources for easemytrip.com. And lastly, we have Mr. Surya Srinivas, VP Engineering of greytHR Software, who will be going forward and moderating the session for us today. A very warm welcome to all of you, and thank you so much for joining in and taking the time to be a part of this panel. With that, I think we can quickly jump into the conversation, and I hand it over to you, Surya, to please start the moderation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kavya. Good afternoon, all the attendees. Good afternoon, Pradeep and Kailash, Dr. Kailash. So let's get started. One of the key aspects of employee experience is, of course, employee engagement. Engaged employees are retained, and if you retain high performers, you drive business success. So employee engagement, retention, business success are very much linked to each other. So Can you share one quick insight of how an HR tech platform can actually personalize employee experience? Pradeep, maybe if you want to start. Pradeep, maybe you have to unmute yourself.
Oh, my bad. Sorry. So, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for inviting me. We're privileged to kind of talk and address and keep this as much as possible interactive session. So, very good question, Surya. I mean, what are we doing at the core of employee experience? As mentioned by Kavya, I'll take it from where she left. That for any retention, engagement, growth of any employee in a career and staying for a longer period, which we call more stability, uh, it is not about the compensation alone. It's not about the benefits. It's not about a lot of things that we talk about which are tangible. It's about the intangible, and that's something which is the experience that we create for the employees. Uh, Especially in the HR field, if I have to talk more specific to HR, our function of HR is, and I'm sure there are a lot of participants who are from the HR fraternity. Uh, we are constantly, day out and day in, being bombarded with a with with a kind of question saying that what is HR doing? Every problem of an employee needs to be addressed and solved by HR. That's the expectation, at least. And we end up doing a lot of transactional, monotonous, repetitive jobs. Thereby, we don't create experience either for the HR professional, who is also one part of the employee in the organization, or for the employees per se. So the first thing I would say, Surya, is how do we cut off those repetitive, automated, or maybe the same things which are transactional in nature, which we stop doing. Either it is for anybody as an employee, if they continue to do that for a few days, it's fine, but after that, it becomes mundane and it ends up with completely no energy, no focus, no excitement, and it becomes like a machine kind of run. So to create that employee experience, I believe we need to look at how do we remove the transactional, repetitive, operational process steps that we do on every single day basis.
Great. Thank you so much, Pradeep. Kailash, if you might want to add some thoughts on this. Please unmute yourself.
Yeah. So thank you, Surya, and thank you, Mr. Pradeep, for putting up some light on this matter. Uh, what happens is usually employees engagement is a part of chunk which usually majority of stakeholders and business holders feel that it's not required. That is one of the challenge. Another thing is we consider employee engagement as cake cutting, parties, or some activities which are non-productive. So what happens? Usually, business stakeholders they consider this as non-productive tasks, and employees also feel that oh, HR has come up with a new Santa Claus, and let's play with him, and let's cut the short. And some you might have seen that 40 to 50% people they leave this employee engagement and go for their own gossips instead of getting engaged over there. So what is in HR industry? I feel that we being an HR professionals, we should design our engagement which should not be boring like HRs make it. Let it should be more engaging, not in terms of engagement doesn't means that you throw a party and there are drinks and all cake cuttings are happening, and that's not there. The main motive is to get the employee engaged and to get the feedback from that engagement, which is very important. Because if you're not going to contribute towards the business growth, then your employee engagement has not been taken seriously by either party, by employees or by the stakeholders. So that is my point, and there are various ways to do it. So first of all, the feedback should be prepared uh, towards the business goals and all. It should be prepared in a way that how you can contribute. We can include, we can, from this feedback forms and feedback data, we can also plan our manpower planning as well as the succession planning as well. Because once an employee who is totally engaged, who is leading the team, but he is not on papers, managing those employees, but he is motivating them, he or she is driving force in the team, that person deserves to be put in succession planning and be the next successor. What we HRs do, we take it as a very casual activity. Let's do this and let's do this and let's do this and wrap up the party and go home. That's why it's not been taken serious in organizations.
Great point, Kailash. And just to touch upon greytHR as a product, so we have a module called Engage, where HRs can actually run polls. These days, a lot of companies offer hybrid work, remote work, where the workforce is scattered across geographies, and hence it is important for HRs to quickly run polls and surveys and collect feedback, and also, share one-on-one feedback or appreciate each other. So we offer that as a product. So double clicking on the hybrid work as our next question. Um, so over to you again, Pradeep. So hybrid work is spoken a lot, mainly after the COVID pandemic. And a lot of digital platforms, be it the communication collaboration platforms or even the HR tech platforms, are actually used, to engage and make people grow. So can you talk about what's working well? Because, both the panelists, I saw that CGA has close to 100,000 employees, and Ease My Trip has close to 1,000 employees. So one is a very, very large organization, one is a scale-up organization. So from your perspective, can you actually talk about what's working well, and where we still have blind spots when it comes to the digital platforms usage in the hybrid work environment?
Sure, Surya, thank you. So Surya, let me kind of uh, call this out clearly, loud and clear, that hybrid is here to stay, whether we like it or not. Organizations the last 1.5 year or 18 months are trying to bring back the workforce. And globally, when I look at it within CGI, when we interact with other geographies where we have our employees or offices, the challenge is the same. It is going to be a challenge for organizations to bring back the entire workforce and go back or rewind back to the state where we believe that employees will still come in to work in person. That is not going to happen. So we have really gone past that, and hybrid is here to stay. Now, having said that, what's really working well, I'll tell you the flexibility that most of the people are getting. When I say flexibility, it is not about flexibility in in the in the time and zone that I would like to work, because especially in the IT field, what if most of the people and most of the members here who have joined the webinar would realize that today it is a there is no time zones that we work. We are not boxed into when you are in IT. There are different time zones that we work. It could be US times or European times or APAC times, etc. So that means your time zones are no more between the 9 to 6 or a 8 to 5 kind of a work shift. So the shifts have extended. So it's going to work very well when it comes to flexibility. People can still manage their time very well without getting burned out, if they can really have to work in different time zones within the I would say the work shifts that they have. The collaboration, using collaboration tools like Teams or any other methods of connecting, that's working very well for us. In terms of, we have, at least in CGI, we use Teams quite often. A lot of other companies are using Zoom, etc. So that is working because that's a flexibility. um, if I had to tell you from my experience being a talent acquisition professional, every second candidate, I would say, or maybe 8 out of 10 candidates, the question today that they ask is not about the role. First question is this, are we working in hybrid mode or not? So there is going to be a bit of period where there's going to be pull push between the employee and the employees, that whether we want to bring them in to the organization or make them work remotely, hybridly. I think finally where it will settle this case is we will continue to have hybrid thing. Employees are able to manage their time, they are able to manage their what's working well is they're able to manage little bit of work life balance, because they don't have to get up, especially if I have to call out, which is a genuine problem today. Travel time, there were reports recently, and everybody knows who's living in Bangalore or any city, that employees take at least 60 to 90 minutes to commute one way. That means your time, when you have all the energy and need to really start working, you're spending time on the road. So that is not really going to be working. Your productivity, in some extent, I believe, is going to be really better if you have if you are working in a hybrid mode. Um, Experience of employee overall will really go up. They can, if they manage their time. The flip side, what are the blind spots? I would say sometimes technologies are not enabled, and I find that especially if you have to go through multiple accesses, multiple things. Sometimes, if some of the, especially in IT organizations, if you have to work from office because you are working in a very closed network, client networks, or the ODCs that they call, offshore development center. So that might become a little bit of a bottleneck. Those are blind spots. How do we ensure? And that brings in the second point, is how do we ensure the data security, data privacy is maintained? How do we ensure that all the employees are working responsibly? Because a lot of times I have experienced this, where excuses like, oh, my network is not working, my technology is having a bit of challenge, I have power outages, I'm not able to connect, etc., etc., will come into place. There will be distractions for employees when they're working from home, and we need to take that into consideration. That could be a little bit of a blind spots. Most important is, how do you keep the in-person engagement, the one-on-one personal connect, if employees are working in a hybrid mode? So how do you still keep that engagement going between a manager, supervisor, leader, and the employees? So these are some of the things that could be, I can call out, Surya, as the good and the blind spots that yeah. But bottom line, hybrid is here to stay.
Thanks a lot, Pradeep. Really thoughtful points about the hybrid work, and also how the challenges with respect to the network, and also in terms of so, Dr. Kailash, over to you. What's your experience of handling employees in the hybrid work and usage of the digital platforms?
Okay, so Surya, maybe you can call me as an old school, but I agree with Mr. Pradeep that hybrid is going to stay with us. Now it's being an integral part of our professional life. But to contradict, I will be contradicting my own statements, because from inside somewhere I feel that hybrid should be there, being an as a person. But if I'll talk about business, there is a very good research which has been done by Harvard School and Business School. They have done this research that most of the employees waste their the meeting times and all, and it has gone in 50 years, last 50 years. In a week it was 23 hours. It has raised to 23 hours from 10 hours. And what was the reason for raising this from 10 hours to 23 hours? Because they have specifically mentioned it: stop the meeting madness. So when you are working from home, this meeting madness is going to take place very frequently. And right now we are wasting 23 hours in a week. It's going to raise from there, because when manager has to coordinate with that person, you have to, it's just marrying the time zones of two different people who are working in a flexible workspace. We are calling it as flexible, but it's not flexible anymore. So it is flexibility of an individual, but it is not flexibility of a team. When you come to office, you can meet them, greet them, do that personal interactions on daily basis. But when you're working from home with flexibility, if one manager has to, you know, it will take him around weeks to block a calendar with another employee, because he will be engaged in this activity and then he will say, I have to drop my daughter at school, and I have to pick up my pet for a surgery XYZ. I slipped in washroom, I did that, I this that, I got allergic because I ate nuts. This is totally vague now. And हमारा meeting time is going to be from 23, it will raise to 40. Trust me, in coming time, if this is going to happen, continue flexibility and all this thing, productive hours are going to drop from a very huge number.
Understood. Understood. Just to share some experience of dealing with engineering team in our organization. So, like Mr. Pradeep has indicated about IT and the tech work, etc. Right. So, in my experience, I think flexibility depends on the type of the role or job. There are some roles which need to meet on a regular basis, and deep creative knowledge working people and introverts typically don't want to have too many meetings or don't want to get disturbed. And we have also heard feedbacks where if they come to office, everybody will stop by and say hi, and they get disturbed and they want to work in a very personalized way. And I would like to quickly share an anecdote on hybrid work, right? So we at our organization also try to call employees back to office, right? And we also had some hiring challenges because Bangalore, Hyderabad, these are really big markets for IT people. And, just before joining, I'm sure Pradeep, you would agree with me, people would drop off or do offer shopping, right? So we keep telling our current high performers about the advantages of hybrid or remote work. Especially we offer complete remote work. We feel that it's a competitive advantage for us. Primarily because the real estate prices in the tier one cities are skyrocketing. Same goes with hospitalization. Same goes with school fees, right? Or education. And the air quality index has dropped, or it has become worse in cities like Mumbai and Gurgaon and Delhi and whatnot. And traffic, I think we touched on it. An Indian climatic condition, we have 3 months of summer and 2 months of rainy season. So anyways, people will get wet when they come to office. And so considering all these things, we felt it is very productive for us to work from home. And we also started targeting. I mean, Zoho is one of the really good, very large Indian company, as an example, which targeted talent in tier two, tier three cities, where it started offering remote work and really got, great outcome. It depends a lot on organizational architecture. I'm just trying to throw a different dimension of why, calling people to the office every day is not greatly sustainable given all these factors and the prices and other things. So I think we can jump to the next key topic of the discussion, which is employee well-being. So
So
as
sorry,
every yeah,
I'm so
good,
sorry. I'm so sorry, Surya.
good.
You said I, we might let's have be agree to disagree. So
Yeah,
you
yeah.
said you get performance and well-being of an employee when he's working remotely, right? So we have suffered. We have come from a phase of COVID. We experienced that 90% of manpower or workforce was what you can say traumatized or being mentally challenged when they were sitting at their home and working, especially IT guys. And they were very urging to come back to office at least twice a week.
Yeah, completely agree. I again, right. So that's our next topic of discussion, which is employee well-being. And just so we have a 6 month, once in a 6 month team outing policy. People go to places like Goa. Recently, one of our team members were traveling from Maharashtra to Goa to, Gokarna, Murudeshwar and taking Airbnb and working from anywhere. So, end of the day, I think the Harvard study of, three generations has quoted that it's not money, it's not power, it's not fame. End of the day, human beings want human beings. So the water cooler discussions and the face-to-face thing need not necessarily happen in workplace. We can also repurpose the budgets for team outings where we had seen significant success, having retention rates greater than 95, 96% in our organization. I'm just trying to throw some, real-time anecdotes for the group of attendees here. So now jumping to the employee well-being and employee experience, right? I'm very sure after pandemic there is a lot of talk about mental wellness, and a lot of HRs are also rolling out policies on employee well-being. In your view, Dr. Kailash, how do you think HR tech, like the HR tech apps, can actually play a meaningful role in actually enabling a real-time support to the employee wellness?
Okay. So, HR tech plays a very vital role when it comes to wellness, because most of the employees, they get frustrated by the managers or by subordinates when they don't get the response very quickly. And apart from that, their queries have been addressed, ticket systems have been developed now. People raise the tickets, they get resolution. Instead of, what happens sometimes, we all work in an environment which is very intense work environments are there. Sometimes IT teams, they have to deploy a project or a product. By the end of this, there's a deadline. They're working very hard day and night and do developments and all. Then testing happens, then agile, in environment. So sometimes they get pissed off, sometimes they are not in a right mood to have a conversation. When you don't have a HR techs there, what is happening, the dissatisfaction rate will go very up, including in HR as well as in other employees. Because when they speak to each other without a ticket system, without a proper response time, then they feel that they have been ignored, they have been what you can say, uh, being put in a bucket which is not necessary for the organization, and that disturbs their mindset, and that disturbs their mental health.
Understood. Thank you so much. Um, I was actually reading one of the recent articles called as Therabot. Given that we are in AI revolution, we personally and most importantly in India have a lot of stigma around going for mental health checkups and going to the psychologist. So but we don't mind actually revealing ourselves to a bot because it's not a human. Researchers have actually found that the satisfaction after talking to a bot, which actually personalizes the recommendations, has improved a lot. So maybe this is one of the things that we can look at integrating to the HR tech solutions.
You're
Now
right,
jump.
Surya, if I
Yeah,
may add.
yeah. Please,
See,
please
I,
go ahead.
I just want to add on to this. See, it is a big concern today, and everybody is talking about it. Everywhere it is written about mental health and wellness. Wellness is a larger word, I would say. Under that, there's a lot of revolution that is happening on the tech side. One of them you just quoted, which is very clear. So a lot of people or employees prefer they have become very lonely. They have become very stressed out. There's a need for them to really talk. We had those conventional ways where even today we have those where people can talk to somebody in organization, to a counselor or something like that, or maybe to a mentor or to a coach in terms of helping them both on professional and personal side. But that's not enough. Today, people are going to really look forward to how is the AI enabled or the tech enabled wellness programs that can come into picture. Gamification, according to me, is going to be a big thing of how do you use gamification to create or have a very well employee wellness programs that could be around the gamification. So it doesn't sound like we're doing it on the face of it that we are doing this for employee wellness, but we are masking it as a part of gamification process.
Understood. Pradeep, if I may, I want to double click on that and ask you a connected question. Being a seasoned HR leader, a lot of companies are actually launching their mental wellness related HR policies in terms of, okay, there is a policy, you will enroll in a yoga or swimming or, a gym and you reimburse, or, you talk to a practitioner and, medical tests, etc., etc. So how do the HRs actually measure the success of the policy that is rolled out? Because it's not just about looking at the reimbursements that come in, but how can a HR actually say that, okay, compared to last 2 years, this year I have a much more healthier and fitter organization.
So I'll tell you about something that we did for the team that I'm currently part of, or I'm leading that team in CGI. Um, um, I'm part of the talent acquisition team, and I have 100 plus people in my team. Okay, and by nature or by design, talent acquisition is more stressful, either from the candidate side or from the business side. Both of them really stresses out as a TA professional, and a lot of people relate to that. Till the tag candidate has joined, we don't know whether he or she will join. We don't know how things were, and then there'll be palpitation will go. Constant pressure in saying that we need to get this guy, otherwise our deliverables are getting pushed. We are losing revenues. We are not able to perform our basic task, or putting pressure on the existing team because of not able to add people. All of that really was really working out. And there were people who were, I would see in the team that people were doing a lot of work. Some of them really sustained for longer period before breaking down. And some of them really broke down and said, we can't do this anymore. Working for 10 hours, 12 hours, managing very transactional work. So what we did is we got, as a part of the wellness program, we got a speaker who was not talking about yoga, was not talking about, you know, not talking about do's and don'ts, but a lot of storytelling he did about how to manage. And he was one of the counselor. So in first quarter, we did that. And at the end of quarter one, we went back to some of the people and asked them over a period of time, was that beneficial? And we started telling the managers in my team to relate to some of those anecdotes or some of those examples, and constantly reconfirm how they should address. It's all about, when we are under stress, how do we manage that and how do we address that? While we address, sometimes we can't take it. So do we throw tantrums? Do we get into a subdued thing, or do we just take the pressure, or just say that give up, kind of a thing? So those kind of a conversation that were kind of done after doing the session really helped us to say that this is something managing. And every quarter we randomly have something called a satisfaction survey for employees. So randomly around 20% of the employees in the team are selected, and we started looking at the score, especially on this mental illness and how satisfied they were with the work, not the culture, work, and all that. And we saw some improvements on the scores. So it was to take them out of that framework, not to kind of coach them, but to tell them that this is a problem and how do they address or react in that situation.
Great. So doing some check-ins and surveys actually will help us to gauge
Yes,
the effectiveness of the policies. Wonderful.
yes,
Thank you so much.
yeah, and coffee table discussions, water cooler discussions, as I say, off the cuff discussions will really help. A formal discussions may not bring up those topics, but the employee will be more comfortable in bringing these discussions off the cuff, sometimes over a cup of tea, talking to them what's really happening, because a lot of things people don't express. They react in different ways.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So, related to that, let's dive into the key part of employee experience, which is personalization. Like we all know, we do shopping on e-commerce sites like Amazon, which actually gives us recommendations of what we have to buy, along with the search. Or we go to Netflix, it knows which genre we like. We go to YouTube, it actually recommends us. So all these apps have hyper personalized experiences to millions and millions of its users. Right? Now, Pradeep, you manage, or your organization is close to 100,000 people, right? And I believe you manage thousands of people in your organization. So, how does HR tech uh, create this hyper personalization and right from different journey, starting from onboarding to career development to exit? Because today everybody's experiences have increased, and the apps also have to match to that. Can you throw some light on that?
So I'll tell you again the experience that I have personally gone through in the last 4.5 years, close to 4.5 years that I'm in CGI. So when I joined here in 20, it was a COVID year or just started COVID period, and everything was very, very uncertain. And once the things opened up after a year, end of 20 or early 21, what we realized is that there are pockets and areas where, both for the candidates and for also the recruitment team, the employees who are working in part of the TA team, there was a very, very, very bad experience that was getting created. By way of, for example, in the downstream activity, post selection till onboarding, you know, we had 20 people and a job was outsourced to third party, where every candidate that we are making offer was contacted and asked to submit documents on an email, right? Imagine set of documents which includes education, employment, a whole bunch of documents and multiple forms to be filled by the candidate. Now, the recruiters were spending more time in follow up. The candidates were spending more time in filling those forms and submitting. And sometimes they miss out. Again, there's a follow up. So a lot of work was going in doing this transactions was a repetitive or not able to do it, get it first right time. Imagine 20 people, 22 people working on this and just collecting this work. I felt it was completely not really the right way to do. We can utilize that 22 people's bandwidth somewhere else, do some meaningful job for themselves and create a better experience for candidate. So we automated the whole process. We got the tool. Today, after 2 years, not only we save money, we better productivity, we created a good experience for candidate. So the entire process today is where the candidates have to fill one form online and we generate multiple forms using that for multiple requirements. The candidates upload their details, or of documents on the tool. So thereby data security, data privacy, all of those are getting addressed automatically. As a result of this, we were able to we started doing more and more offers every year. So what was done as say 2,000, 3,000 joiners, we ended up 4,000, 5,000 kind of joiners, but with a lesser number of people. 75% of the people that were working, we reduced the headcount, thereby saving everything. But look at on an average, the candidates would be taking 4 hours to fill the forms and submit the documents, which now gets over in less than 40 minutes because it's
Great.
automated completely and it's self-driven. So the candidates can fill in the time and duration that they have when they're working somewhere that we don't have to follow up with them. The tool will automatically send mailers, reminders, set follow-up reminders with the candidates. There is a chatbot where the candidates can ask questions and it is answered. So a lot of things are today managed, very well in this kind of a thing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. Pradeep. Now, let's move on to the next key facet for the employee experience, which is real-time feedback and recognition. Oftentimes, we see that the feedback comes once in 6 months or 1 year, and recognition happens either in an R&R event or never happens, right? So, and hence, real-time feedback and recognition becomes a or plays a pivotal role in creating a great and exceptional employee experience. So, Dr. Kailash, if you might want to throw some light on how HR tech apps can actually help in building a more connected and appreciative culture.
So HR is has always to play a pivotal role over here. Why I'm saying this, because in other professions, in any profession apart from HR, any profession means any profession apart from HR, they have to only manage one stakeholder. So for example, you take care of sales, they have to sell a product to a consumer. Okay. Now HR is only profession who resolves the conflicts between two stakeholders. One is employee, then is employer. So why HR plays a significant role over here? HR should not act as a wall between employer and employee. HR should always perform as a bridge between employer and employer. So when it comes to the question that how HR will play, uh, for example, you have set number of policies. It's not about policies that whether it be a human or not, or there should be human touch. When you have set number of policies, you should be able to follow that and get it followed, as get it executed on the ground level as well. What happens, let's say I'm a manager in technology. Sorry to say, I'm pitching up technology as an. So I got upset one day with one of my coworker and say, hey, you wrote a code which is not inconvenient. The testing has to be done. Multiple recurring testing was conducted, and I'm not satisfied with your performance and all, and all and all. And he has been contributing to the organization from last 6 years. And one fine day, his manager got changed, and the working style didn't match. So he will one day call him and say, hey, you are fired. Talk to HR. So now HR should not work as a postman that, hey, you take your letter and you go out of the organization and don't come back. So HR should put up a standard that, that person who was working with us for 6 years, there was no performance issue. Now, all of the sudden you came as a manager. Why it has been escalated that his performance is not good? Can you justify it? He should not take a word from any manager that, okay, you said it and I'm taking it as granted. Precisely, let me be very honest, in Ease My Trip, we do follow a practice. Just before this call, there was a PIP call. And the person who was contributing around 3 years in the technology, and he was working on a VP level. So I was talking to CTO and saying, hey, this doesn't work like this. So whatever you are saying, PIP has to be issued. No, I don't want this one. No, that's not how it works in Ease My Trip. You have to take a stand for your employee. And this is why HR is a critical, because they have to manage two stakeholders at same time, and they have to resolve the conflict between two stakeholders. No profession in on this earth resolve conflicts between two stakeholders.
Yeah. Thanks, Dr. Kailash, for sharing your thoughts. Now moving on to um, you know how do we measure the experience? One aspect of employee experience is how do we create employee experience? So we discussed so far on various ways to do that. Now moving on to how do we actually measure? So Pradeep, if I may want to ask you, are there any metrics or analytics that you think are very underrated when it comes to tracking and improving employee experience? Typically, organizations track employee engagement survey, ENPS, or retention rate. So these are the normal metrics. Are there anything else beyond this that are very underrated when it comes to tracking the employee experience?
So, Surya, in my experience, I haven't really seen or heard about how do we measure employee experience, frankly. We measure a lot of employee engagement per se. Now, we are neither extrapolated it nor used that to create a dashboard or create a point on employee experience. At least I have not come across. But what I believe is the surrogate way of measuring that in a very simple way, or maybe in a crude way, could be um, whatever tools that we have done created today. Everybody's talking about AI, right? Every organization, everywhere, that's all over the place. But we need to understand, are those AI enabled applications or tools or platforms, are they really helping an employee to save time, do more work, do more with less? Are they really helping them to at the end of the day they say, okay, I don't have to do it repeatedly the same thing? Or are they telling us that so there's no such measure that we are asking that question, but I think we need to create some kind of a framework or some kind of a measure that measures predominantly the employee experience. One of the ways what we can think and we can extrapolate is that if we believe that you know your employee satisfaction survey is giving you a high score and your attrition is giving you a lower score, okay, it is reversely proportional, or 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 that way it's correlated in a opposite way. As that something some of that measure we can bring in. So I'll tell you from the experience that when we had to reduce the number of people from 20 to 6 or 7, we did not let go those 14 people, repurpose them into a different roles. Because what is really today happening is the measure of experiences when AI is coming in, the roles are changing, AI is not replacing. The roles are changing. For example, a recruiter today, instead of doing a transactional work, I believe they can spend more time with the candidate engagement. They can spend more time with the business manager. They can become a better conduit, or they can become a more of a advisory. They can play an advisory role rather than becoming a transactional role. The transactional part can be taken away with the work that AI can bring in, right? So, in terms of any survey that you do, the effect of that survey would be a little bit of a latency. But when I say latency, what has really happened in the last 15 days, 1 month, or what is on the top of the mind? A lot of those surveys. Second, when you look at the survey, it does give you a more or less an average part of it. It's not absolute. There could be some we miss out on those employees who are scoring low, and we miss out on the employees who are scoring high. We only focus on the average part of it. The average is much better, or we get a score of 8 on 10, 9 on 10, then we say we are doing a good job. But that's where the blind spots are, according to me. You know, so there
Yeah.
is a need to have a better measure of this, creating this employee experience. One of the measure is that how much of your day-to-day work is automated. What percentage of that is automated, and are you able to take away the transactional work and bringing more work, more of a work which invokes the thinking part in an employee, not the doing part.
Yeah. Understood. If I may want to again ask you about the surveys that typically happen during the probation, like once somebody completes successful probation onboarding, the onboarding experience related surveys or the exit interview related surveys, right? So can HRs actually gauge the improvement of employee experience with these onboarding and exit surveys?
Precisely, yes. So don't ask the offbeat questions of rate about this and rate about that. One is an ongoing thing that we need to do, and then there's a need to capture that information, both quantitative and qualitative information. Two, we need to also ensure that it is made quite interactive, or we are able to understand more than the score. We are able to understand what are the underlying factors that we need to improve. For example, you ask about a question, say, how is how do you rate reward and recognition program that we have launched? One of the question, right, Surya? A part of the survey. Now, people will answer that if they have been rewarded and recognized, they'll answer very high score. And those who are not, they'll give it a low score. Rather than that, can it be made as saying that, okay, what is it requires to ensure that what does reward mean for you or recognition mean for you? We don't try and gauge that part of it. And there's a need to really build our surveys or the question that we frame in such a way that it brings out the what part of it than how much part of it.
Thank you so much. Kavya, I think we are running time, so I'll hand it over to you to open the
Sure.
floor for the Q&A.
Done. Thank you so much, Surya. Thanks for the moderation. I think we got some very valuable insights from both Dr. Kailash and Pradeep. So thank you so much for sharing. In relation to that, we have a couple of questions that have trickled through throughout the session. I think the closest one to what you were just mentioning, Pradeep, Neha Sharma has just asked, so what would be your take if the employee satisfaction survey score for independent questions is high, however, the overarching statement has a low score?
Okay, so the independent questions can be high is very personalized experience that the employee is sharing with him. And again, there could be a fallacy, Neha, in terms of if I'm an employee and I'm engaged over a period, latency effect, as I call, is very high. My relationship with a lot of people that I work around is good, and I'm experiencing a better positive thing in that period. I'll always be scoring high. But the overall experience being lower is a very bad indicator, or is an alarming indicator according to me, because the employee is still saying that there are areas where we have not really looked upon. Maybe for some of the independent questions, yes, I'm very happy. I come, I've been cared, I've been questioned, I've been asked. But if I'm not overall satisfied with the way I'm being dealt with by my stakeholders, by peers or by supervisors, you're paying me good salary, but you're not being taking care of me in terms of whether I'm going through a bit of a mental stress, I'm going through a bit of difficult times. If that is not inclusive, then the inclusiveness goes away when you really look at the overall score, and that is a really concerning or alarming thing, I believe.
Got it. Thank you so much for your input there, Pradeep. Dr. Kailash, anything you'd like to add to this specific discussion, this specific topic on
So I
measuring?
want to add over here that there are various ways to do evaluation, or I think great HR will surely come up with something, to measure the employee experience and all. And specifically when the technology team is over here, they will definitely work on it. And uh, yeah, there are some methods to do that. Um, Keeping them. So I was previously, before joining EaseMyTrip, I was thinking about some model to you know measure the employee experience, uh, showing them pictorial messages and asking their feedback on that through technology could be one thing which how their experience can be measured. So in using psychology in collaboration with the technology, so there is another thing how it can be measured. Their urge of engaging means engaging in the company, how they are engaged, they are talking to people, how they are addressing each other, how uh, how frequent they interact with each other. That is another thing it can be done. So you said engage is one platform over there. If you can create something in engage, that for example there is a somebody's birthday, how many people wished him happy birthday, or engaged with that person, that can also evaluate this. If I'm wrong, Mr. Surya would have some different suggestion on this.
Thank you so much again, Dr. Kailash, for your inputs there. I think tying into that, Neha Sharma also asked a very important question. Which tool would you recommend for an organization with employee strength of around 5K? I think the best person to answer this would be Mr. Surya. If you could share, Engage would be a platform suitable for something like this.
Uh, Being from greytHR, I would obviously recommend greytHR to start with. It depends on the use case. If the questioner can actually tell the use case, we can actually discuss about that. There are a lot of tools which actually can build engagement, but end of the day, I'll again go back to the statement that building engagement starts with more on a human touch than on a tech platform-based engagement. Tech platform can only create engagement to a certain level, but I think human touch and human interaction can multiply it with a 10x factor.
Understood, Surya. Thank you so much. I think the question was in relation to onboarding formality that Pradeep mentioned. Is that something you would also be able to shed light on?
You want me to take that question,
Sure.
Kavya?
Please go ahead.
See, onboarding tools, as Surya said, yes, one of the tool that is definitely from greytHR. We do use part of that tool. I'm sure Surya knows. We use one module of that tool. But to just answer specifically for Neha's thing, yes, the number of size of an organization in terms of employee headcount matters. But what matters, according to me, is more the flexibility of tool to kind of customize to the needs. Second, how much of that you would like to keep it, common, or keep it the same across geographies, across locations, or within the departments. You can't have very defragmented tools or standalone tools. How much you can make it seamless is very important, which means it can talk to different tools. And so any tool which has that flexibility of customizing, of seamless integration, will and possibly able to scale up. Something that you have really started off with 5,000 people, can it take up 10,000 people? Is something that we need to really manage. But we all need to remember, all tools and technology today has changed and really challenged, with remote working coming into place. Today, all of us face bandwidth challenge. We all of us face access challenge sometime or the other. So tools which are really having to eliminate such kind of bottlenecks should be looked at it.
Understood, Pradeep. I think that was very valuable. Thank you so much. I think a key takeaway that I had from the discussion so far was elevating employee experience through reducing redundant tasks. That was brought up quite often. I thought that was very valuable, and you shared a very important example of that as well with CGI, wherein you took away the entire documentation aspect of it, automated it, and I think it resulted in saving money, saving time, and increasing productivity. I think that's a great takeaway that I definitely got from this. I think in the interest of time, I believe there is one more question. I think we can answer that one question and then we can move on to a quick poll. Mitali Dohro has asked, a larger challenge we face is engaging remote employees. Any highlights on that?
So I'll take that question and maybe others can add the panels. So yes, it is a challenge. Let's not shy away from that. It is a challenge. And as somebody has in the chat, if you scroll up, somebody has put that, it emits from the fact that there is a trust required by the managers, that forms a basis. Because if you don't trust, then the challenges compound, right? Many people have challenges working remotely. They themselves have, paucity of technology, sometimes access, sometimes not available. And also Dr. Kailash spoke about how do you don't allow your personal lines to be intersecting with your professional work on a day-to-day basis. Like he said, somebody has to go and drop a daughter, or somebody has to go and drop their children to school, somebody has to pick up. Now, in the good old days when we are in office, we would have forgotten all that. Somebody else is doing that for us. But in the last period, post-COVID, we would have actually allowed those things to be done by ourselves. So there is a need to redefine, and not having those intersections kind of a thing. From an employee point of view. From an employee point of view, anybody who's interacting, they need to be having the trust, saying that, okay, if somebody is managing his or her work in a bits and pieces, it's perfectly fine as long as the work is delivered and there's no pendency, there is no reminders, and the work has been done as it is executed. So that can be met, with the challenges that we have. Trust is very important according to me. We should let people work and pick up their time and choice of the work that they do.
Thank you, Pradeep, for that. I think that was very helpful. Again, in the interest of time, I think we will now move on to a quick poll just to look at the pulse of our audience here. I just request my team to put up the poll if possible. I hope the poll is visible for everybody. Please choose your responses. Oh, I see. Real-time feedback and recognition appears to be gaining momentum here. Yep, it seems like a landslide. It says real-time feedback and recognition is the biggest differentiator in delivering a modern, impactful employee experience.
And that is, I believe, achieved with a lot of your automation and technology enabled, kind of a thing. Human touch will remain, but I believe technology enablement will really accelerate that entire, engagement cycle.
I think the poll is being shared on screen, if everyone can see that. Yeah, as as Pradeep said, yeah, it's an important factor, and thank you for sharing, everybody. Thank you for your participation. And I think with that, we are slowly coming to the close of our session today. While we close, on this high note, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us. Pradeep, Dr. Kailash, Surya, thank you so much for a great moderation and the great questions that was asked. I think we gained a lot of insights, and a lot of learning was happened today for sure. It's very clear that technology, when done right, can produce remarkable results, specifically in the field of employee experience. And lastly, while I'd like to thank the audience as well for joining in, participating, sharing your questions, insights, and inputs. Also, greytHR, thank you so much for this partnership and enabling such a fruitful discussion. Just to keep everyone appraised, there will be other webinars across the series, again, on different topics coming up. Please be on the lookout. The registration link will be up and open for everyone who would like to register. Thank you so much again, everybody. Thank you to our speakers today. And is there any closing remarks you'd like to make before we close?
Only one point I'd say, as HR, start thinking technology and enablement as the key to success. Get away from the mundane, operational, transactional jobs. Challenge the status quo. Challenge the current situation is what I would say.
So I also want to put some point over here. Most of the business heads and all, they feel that bringing the culture to the organization is HR's responsibility. But usually it's just like the same that everybody you know expects culture, but nobody delivers. So it's everybody want to die, go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. So we all should remember that. So HR, if you want HR to bring the culture, get me a shop where the culture is on a sale. I'll get bulk of culture to the organizations.
Surya, any closing remarks from you?
Yeah, thank you.
Nothing much. I think there was one question that we couldn't answer. Somebody was saying that if there are back-to-back meetings, how do I actually manage the personal work? I think Dr. Kailash has given us the stats of how it moved from 10 hours to 23 hours and the possibility of 40 hours. We should encourage a lot of asynchronous communication and meet or have meetings only whenever there is urgency or there is a need for synchronous communication. Whenever there are escalations or whenever there is a need for brainstorming or whiteboarding is when we should have meetings. Otherwise, status updates and other things can actually go through emails or Slack or Google Chat or whatever, collaboration tools. And that can actually reduce the meeting fatigue, and we can definitely have a better, productive time for the employees.
So I want to add Surya over here. So the question is right. So the back-to-back meetings will definitely waste your time, and to avoid that is to create better SOPs, which will guide you instead of getting in meeting with your manager and asking what to do and how to do and when to do. So create better SOPs. There was a video I think released on social media. It was a father teaching his children. uh, he put you know a bread and asked them to put jam or spread butter on those breads. So he asked them SOPs. What are the SOP? They said put knife in the jar, and he put knife inverted towards that. Knife was heading, the tip of the knife was heading towards the ceiling. So then he spread the jam. He said, spread on that. So you should have a crisp SOPs. That is how you can avoid these unproductive meetings.
Thank you, Dr. Kailash, for sharing that. I think that that's a wrap for today's webinar. Thank you, everyone, once again. Have a great evening and goodbye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Kavya.
Thank you.
Thanks, Surya. Bye, and thanks,
Thank
Pradeep.
you.
Bye.
Have a